Hello, everyone. We're finally here. Uh, Took us a little bit to get here, but we have made it. It is episode 60 of Longtime Watcher, First Time Writer, our final episode of Kamen Rider Kuga. How about that, y'all? We're
Fucked
wrapping
up.
Kuga up. Yeah.
In a blanket.
Yeah, his corpse. Sorry,
We're
spoilers.
We will try not to spoil too much more for you, but we are going to spoil that we're going to be covering the last 3 episodes of Kamen Rider Kuga today. That's episode 47, Decision, episode 48, Kuga, and episode 49, Yusuke. I mean, there's really nothing to it but to do it, except I should also make sure to introduce everybody. Hello, I'm King Fats, I'm your longtime watcher, and with me are my wonderful group of first-time writers, Action Shakespeare,
Hi.
B-Drops,
Hello.
and Liliendic Nonagon.
Hi.
Final episode, huh?
Hello for the last time.
Yes,
is the
yeah, we're
last
never doing the podcast
episode
ever again.
Of the podcast. I hope
Fuck
you
you.
didn't enjoy, and you can never catch us again.
Yeah, you'll never catch us alive, coppers.
Vanishing from the material plane.
This episode won't go up. You won't see this. We're gonna be gone.
You know, on the land.
Everyone's gonna die anyways, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always saying this.
Complete and total nihilism and solipsistic hatred take over your soul. Congratulations.
Welcome to
60
the
episodes.
Rick and Morty podcast.
Jesus Christ.
God, a fate worse than death. Amazing, you found it.
Well, thankfully we're watching Kamen Rider Kuga.
We're watching Kamen Rider Kuga, and we're starting with episode 47, Decision, original air date, January 7th, 2001.
Yeehaw.
My sister is about to be born.
Wow,
Yeah.
powerful. Happy almost birthday, B-Sister. I'm going to read the synopsis here. We have a little bit of a plot, which is surprising. We haven't had plots in so long. And also, we don't have plots for the next 2, so I think I'm just going to read the synopsis and we'll talk about the episode. After an initial attempt to handle En Dagulva Zeba fails, Yusuke meets with all of his friends and allies to see them one final time.
That's like next episode, technically, but whatever.
I mean, it starts this episode, but
It's true. He does
next
kinda start
episode
the
as well. I
process.
mean, that's the
He
thing
mostly
is, like,
sits around in the rain in this one.
yeah, it's a lot of sitting
Has
around in the lane.
visions.
Yeah.
Let the rain fall down.
Visions of the future, I guess.
These 3 episodes, or at least this episode and next episode, are kind of just one really long episode.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But I kind of dig it.
I kind of appreciate the beginning of this episode. When I looked into it, because I was for a minute slightly confused about the timeline,
Mm-hmm.
I saw it was a rather divisive portrayal of this encounter, I suppose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that it was basically off screen.
I
Yeah, no,
fucking
that's
love it.
Fair, though.
I personally understand that, like, you know, it's our big bad, but the show, while it does have fights, I appreciate that. I don't feel like the emphasis in the show is generally placed on the action and the violence. If anything, it's saying that this is an unfortunate ends to a means, if anything. I also couldn't help but wonder, like, before I'd watched the other 2 episodes, if this was entirely done just to try to keep Daguba more, I guess, secret, while also getting kind of have your cake and eat it too. You get your hero to lose in the fight against the big bad, but you get to keep your big bad's power set secret.
It does seem like that a little bit. I personally do really like the way they handled this bit. I think it's a very cool way to do, like, your first big bad fight, especially with, you know, the future of more modern, you know, Kamen Rider, as they kind of get more of an anime lean to them, because that is what the youth likes. Our final boss conflicts become more and more shonen battle anime-esque, and this is a very refreshing kind of palate cleanser against all that sort of stuff of just like, hey, you're not gonna actually see him fight this dude the first time. you're just gonna see some flashbacks of some really terrible shit happening, and have fun inferring from there.
I have much to say about these episodes.
Well, now's the time to start saying it.
Yeah, say it,
No.
motherfucker. This is a podcast.
No, I have to wait for the podcast. Shoutouts to episode 47 for starting out with the ASMR laughter over footage of everyone dying.
You'll love to see it.
This is a kid's show.
I love to watch a man get immolated in his own car.
Yeah.
Truly questioning the this is a kid's show mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
To the bitter end. I don't think I ever assumed this was for kids with a 4.
yeah.
No,
From
I
the
don't think they were a
beginning.
company yet.
I'll admit, I mostly say it for like the bit, but I mean, there generally is a major difference in the way Japanese media aimed at children treats their properties
This
than
is
the
also
way we
true.
do over here. And I couldn't help but think like things that were definitively for kids made in Japan that I engaged with growing up. Like, I think Naruto is one of the biggest examples that comes to mind as something I grew up with that is explicitly made for children, like middle school age children being the target demographic. There's
makes sense.
so much violence
Yeah.
all the time. There's blood and death, and it's horrible.
That's what middle
But-
schoolers are into.
That's what,
It
it's
is.
true. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world as a middle schooler, and only as an adult do I take this perspective of, oh my god, how will this affect the children? And the more I'm trying to kind of reframe it against other things that I'm familiar with, I'm like, well, at that age, I probably would have loved this actually.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Which
It's sort
is,
of been like the deepest thing I've ever encountered in my life.
Mm-hmm.
honestly, yeah.
I personally just really enjoy this episode as a whole. I mean, really both episodes kind of, but I feel like 48 has a little more meat to it than 47. I feel like it is unfair to call any episode of Kuga about nothing, but I think this is the episode that is the most, like, it's not really about anything, nothing explicitly really happens per se, and I love that. That's what I like about it.
Fair enough, but I highly disagree because we got a clip show.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair.
Worse than nothing. No.
And
Yeah.
technically speaking, there's actually a special that we didn't watch, and we're not going to watch because it's just basically another clip show.
I love clip show.
Yeah, but this is all about like the vibes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just
Yes.
so immaculate.
And the vibes were so good, yeah. Yeah, this is an episode that is 100% about the vibes, and that is definitely why I love it. Because the vibes that are put forth are fucking immaculate.
Yeah, this episode truly is watching the storm clouds roll in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Literally.
is raining the whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
A touch that I thoroughly enjoy. I love that it's raining the whole time throughout 47 and 48.
Oh yeah, no, it would be much more clever if they didn't keep bringing it up.
I need you to know that it is raining and that this is symbolism.
Yeah, and like I'm a sucker for that. Thank you, Kuga. I love it. But also I don't need you to tell me about it because I'm a
That's
sucker
fair,
for
but
it.
you're a grown adult.
Yeah, they're talking
This
to
is
the middle
true.
schooler.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It's like there's a, you know, we'll get to the final episode, but it's just like there's a moment and I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, this is a really cool call. This is a really cool like double meaning that could have be implied from this, and that was like shows that this story was all set out from the beginning, and at least in broad strokes, and that's really cool. And then like 5 minutes later, Sakurako just like outright says it, and I'm like, okay,
Oh,
okay, thanks, I got it. It's like-
I got it.
which is
Listen, it's pro wrestling. We gotta get the people
Yeah.
in the cheap seats.
Gotta get the
They
people in
gotta
the cheap
understand
seats.
what's happening.
well, it's like
The proverbial cheap seats.
Yeah.
you didn't even need to like. That's just a little added layer of symbolism, but it's really at the last two episodes, that's my biggest complaint, is just that a lot of the symbolism was like, hey, make sure you explain this, all right?
I'm
As
gonna
they're
take
crying.
this symbol and I'm
it's
gonna
like,
beat you over the head.
like, yeah, okay, I really like what you're going for, but just come on, stop.
Listen,
Tokusatsu is it's famed for its subtlety.
yeah,
Yeah.
one. Two, the middle school reading comprehension is a powerful enemy to try and pierce through. And you gotta beat that motherfucker with a brick pretty damn hard.
Fair. It's just.
I get it. I mean,
Andy.
certainly
I
some...
get it. It's just a kid's show.
No, I'm going to criticize the writing for this kids show because I expect it to be on the level of the most philosophically dense narratives ever penned. By
She said that she's officially one of those guys about Kamen Rider. Boo this woman, chat. Boo her. Get her ass.
Oh no.
Boo.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't think it
Listen.
necessarily makes it bad, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, in actuality, it's like that didn't really take away from my enjoyment of it. It's just like, as an adult, it is hard to look at media and then when they kind of have implied it so heavily, but then specifically like thesis statements say it, it's always a little like, oh, that's disappointing.
That's fair. It's, it's certainly... A little subtlety would definitely be appreciated, but yeah, like you said, I'm not gonna decry the show for lacking it.
It's like whatever. It is still like, if not a kids show, then like at least teens, mid-teens, something like that, and like whatever. Also, even if it was straight up for adults, I wouldn't care either because guess what? It's fiction and they're allowed to have mistakes.
Yeah. And it's
I
not
love
like it
mistakes.
necessarily, detracts from the enjoyment of the show at all, either.
Yeah, no, it's just like, I think the fact that that is one of my biggest criticisms is more telling on how good everything else was,
Mm-hmm.
rather than any negative towards the actual show. I could go on through my notes, but I'm not sure how linearly we want to take it.
I don't really have too much of a preference for it to be super linear. Especially because I hope, ideally, if you are listening to this, you have already watched these episodes, so you recognize that they are all kind of so it's really kind of just a continuous series of events. So
Yeah, there's something that Kuga does really well, and that is making the happy guy cry. Because
That's me, I'm crying.
yeah, like there's throughout the entire run of the series, Godai has been like, thumbs up, I'm okay, things are gonna be fine. But then in episode 47, like, you see another one of those, like, reports of, like, oh, there are 92 people dead from this one attack. And then, like, Godai is just, like, emotionally breaking down a bit. And then before he starts to cry, like, his teacher comes in, and then he has to put on a smile, and it's like, ow, that hurts me.
That shit
As
hurt.
he does another little angry Arthur fist.
Yeah.
Not to make fun of him, it's good. It's like
It's so
this
good.
It is a repetition of the only way we've seen him express anger that wasn't beating someone to death.
And it's like,
And that part comes in episode 48.
it's true. And like, I don't know, just to see those, to get to a character to that point and then actually getting them to break in like an earned way is just so satisfying for me on like a narrative level. It makes me sad, and the fact that Godai has to put on, be like, no, I'm still fine, actually. It This is overdramatic, but it does speak to my autistic tendencies and self. We're just like, no, I'm gonna just pretend things are okay. But
Sometimes it's easier
Yeah.
too.
Right.
It's an easy script. How are you? Fine. How
Yeah,
are you?
like there's the meme of just like sometimes you have to say you're fine but you're not fine or whatever, but like I like when it's done in such sincerity, it's genuinely really nice because it's like yeah, I think it's a very relatable thing just for most people in general, and especially for someone who's been doing a lot of emotional work as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of double hits there as well.
Yeah.
It also, in this episode, starts the more subtle uh, book endings to the series. Like things are inverted. Like in the first episode, she goes she's like she walks towards them, or like she's up against the masks, and then she goes to the computer. But then in this episode, she goes from the computer to the masks, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like also when Godai like shows up too. So it's kind of, I don't know. I thought that was a nice little inversion of it, um, where it's like, yeah, this is the beginning of the end. We have sense of finality to things.
Yeah.
It's so good. Also, just like, okay, this is going back a bit, and I apologize, but
Go wherever you want.
You are free.
the
Yeah.
vibes we have been describing so far, been describing a lot of like the visual, um, where it's like it's got that old like VHS aesthetic of, well, aesthetic I say, as they're just recorded on VHS. Thank you, brain.
From 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but something about the like way a VHS is recorded, mixed with like the heavy rainfalls, puts me in like a super tense and relaxed state all at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's, I don't know what that is. That might just be a me thing. But on top of all of that, we've got like the just the constant soundscape of like rain and howling wind, of like that's the one thing that isn't interrupted pretty much throughout this entire really two course of two episodes. And it's just like, again, to sound dramatic because I can't like formulate a sentence without sounding it. Um, it's nearly hypnotic in the way it conveys its mood and tone.
A little bit, yeah. I certainly see what you mean.
It's a reprieve amidst the tension. You're not safe for long.
Yeah.
The eye of the hurricane, etc.
Yeah.
I suppose to give just slight more context, even though, like I said, hopefully you've already seen the episodes. If for whatever reason you are listening to this and you have not seen the episodes, we are essentially following two different plots, both of relative simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Plot A is Godai, and Godai is essentially kind of just going around and having a conversation with a bunch of the important characters that we have met this far in the show. So, like, at the beginning of the episode, he's talking to his teacher. We see him go meet Enokita. We see him go talk to Tsubaki. That sort of thing. He's going and he's talking with his friends. And then our B plot is, as the police are continuing to try and do, their whole police investigative thing, trying to find Dagava, they get a lead on the Rose Woman, and Ichijo goes to pursue that particular lead. And so that is kind of mainly what is happening in this episode. Is we are cutting back and forth between Godai going and talking to these people, and Ichijo conducting this investigation, trying to find this information, trying to figure out where this lead on the Rose Woman will lead him. And they both rule in their own very specific ways. Especially because Ichijo's is kind of a largely kind of solo mission. He has the one of the other cops, not Sawatari, but the bread one, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment. He's with him for like a very brief moment, but the majority of what we see of Ichijo is him like exploring this like old abandoned like warehouse or schoolhouse or something, by himself, and it's like there's no light, so he's illuminating everything with a flashlight, and there are holes in the roof so you can see the rain still falling on him even when he's inside. It's just got such a fantastic film noir kind of vibe to everything Ichijo is doing. And with Godai, we get this. It is like happiness undercut by melancholy. I think
crying the whole time. I don't.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's great because especially it's kind of what the rain represents, that constant and unrelenting downpour. As Godai goes to these people that he are important to him, and he laughs and he jokes around, but also more importantly, he's like, "Hey, so I'm gonna go,
Forever.
and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna fight this guy." And then the thing he keeps telling everyone, which could be read as a euphemism at this point in time, is after I'm done with that fight, I'm gonna go on an adventure.
Screaming. I was screaming.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone.
Yeah, no, I love it. I loved it. I love him just telling people, yeah, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna fight him, and then I think I'm gonna go on an adventure. And it's like, obviously he's trying to get across to the point that he will not be back for a while, but what he means explicitly like that is left unclear for obvious reasons. And just the kind of inherent underlying pain that is, you can see it in everyone, and each person represents it their own way. My personal favorite was he goes and he does like one final checkup with Tsubaki, and he tells him he's going to go on, I'm going to do this fight, and then I think I'm going to go on an adventure. And Tsubaki's like, an adventure, huh? Well, you could go to the beach or the mountains. Personally, I'd want to go somewhere where we can swim. And Godai's like, wait, what? And like,
Please
for once Tsubaki, like gets the upper hand on Godai, like joke-wise at least. It's just, I love when there's like a big looming unseen thing we're not talking about in the room, especially in Kamen Rider, especially because it's usually the same thing that we are not talking about in this room, in this Kamen Rider specifically, which is, hey, our protagonist is probably gonna fucking die.
You take that back. You take.
Hey, what's
that
up,
back.
Doc? You got room for my giant red flag in here?
Yeah.
Get out.
I love
just
when
put
Kamen
this
Rider does
right
it though,
here.
because it does it so well, and we usually do this sort of thing at the end of a series, so our characters are fleshed out well enough that you understand the like little the little quirks and the little character tics that show how they are accepting and processing the information that they are being given, and it's just it's so good to watch. These are easily some of my favorite episodes of Writers, is when we get to this point where we get to do these things and have these conversations with people.
God, I'm just looking through my notes, and Jesus Christ, there's so many scenes, and so many, like, I have such detailed notes for this, because, like, there's one at the daycare, or the kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
where the kid, like, I'm blanking on her name.
Minami? Yeah, Minami.
Yeah, Minami. Like, the kid looks up at Minami and is just like, as the rain pours
Minori?
down.
You
Minori.
Or no, I'm sorry. Yes, Minori. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And
No.
just looks up and is like, "Hey, is my family going to die?" And I'm just like, Jesus. Christ.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I literally.
Well, yours isn't.
Okay. So I didn't rewatch 47, because I had all my notes already.
Mm-hmm.
But you are now reminding me of the exact point where I wrote down, "We're all gonna die, kid. Let's get you some fruit."
That is,
And
yeah,
then-
truly.
And then she answers with, it's like, basically, it's just like, we're gonna do what we can, and we're gonna make that be enough. And I'm just like, ow,
Wow, that's good.
that's too. You can't just say that to a toddler, like, or not a toddler, but like a kindergartner.
I mean, what else do you say
Yeah.
to these little preschool children, though?
Yes.
You can't tell them maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I
And you
don't
can't really
know,
tell them
like-
no either.
I mean, that answer amounted to maybe, but you didn't just say maybe.
Yeah.
It's
Like that's
I feel like it's a more productive answer that doesn't fall into insincerity,
well,
because
yeah.
anybody could be like, "No, of course not, sweetie," but
I think that's
like,
what caught me off
yeah.
guard about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, like, oh, of course not, is a very easy thing to say, and like that's kind of what I expect for kids. Like, I keep coming back to kid show as a terminology, but like,
Well, I mean, it is, at least it is intended for a younger audience.
I think her response is like more respectful of the intelligence of the children.
Mm-hmm.
it absolutely is the thing, which is something that we've had all the way back in like episode 9, when we were dealing with that, like, those other plots. It's been a while. But how, like, this show has consistently, like, it has very consistently handled the age gap between characters and different generations pretty well, of just like, hey, these things aren't necessarily transferable in experience or understanding, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
And the characters like do that as well, and I think that's really nice.
Also, I feel like I would be remiss if we don't just mention, because I think a lot of what makes this scene very powerful, or this episode, like, really kind of powerful, is, we open it up with some truly horrible shit happening, just some absolute, like, nightmare Armageddon stuff happening, cars on fire in the streets, people dying left and right. Godai, who we're also getting this all like first person view from Godai's perspective after he's gotten his ass handed to him. So it's, it is a pretty dire opening to the episode. And there are like, I think there's like one direct callback to it in a conversation between Sakurako and Jean. But aside from that, the only time we ever really call back to it is as Godai is, going about and, he's trying to talk to these people. At one point, he kind of just stops in the middle of the road, and he looks over to the side where he sees, like, kind of one of those mini road memorials set up for, a bunch of the people who had passed in that incident. People have left out, flowers and stuffed animals and what have you. And they're just kind of sitting there in the rain, getting absolutely drenched. And it's just, it's such a good little bit of this episode. And it leads us into, I mean, not specifically that bit, but, this episode leads us into episode 48, Kuga, original air date January 14th, 2001. After making his final rounds, Yusuke returns to where it all began in order to use his fully awakened power in the final showdown with En Daguva Zeba. Which means...
I love how, like, Shout, like, writes that shit out at the bottom as if that's a thing that you'll ever remember the full name of without looking down to see it.
It's,
I mean, I'll give them Daguva. We said it enough. We've said it in our stupid voice. Batman said it so many times. Yeah. But
Batman was screaming about Daguva.
The whole fucking name, like, that's just what we're gonna call him all the time.
Yeah, for sure. His name is Sir Reginald, and you will address
his name is Zero at this point, as far as I'm gonna write down in my notes.
That's fair.
His name is who? I don't know.
Oh, it sounds like his name is
back.
Chicky Slim Shady.
Evil Jesus.
Yeah, take your pick.
Some guy.
These are all kind of accurate, frankly.
Yeah, really.
I'm not gonna lie, I take a little bit of issue with how this series ended.
Talk about it.
I don't. Well, we'll go through it. We'll run it down. We'll break it down. But like,
All right.
man, I got slight beef.
I knew you would. I'm watching
surprised.
the episode and I'm like, oh, Shakes is gonna be pissed.
I'm so curious. Okay, so episode 48 starts right where episode 47 ends, because episode 47 ends right before Godai is going to do what the back half will say of his errands, which is him pulling up outside of Pol. So 48 starts inside with him and Nana and Pops. They're all just enjoying a nice warm
fine cup of coffee.
Yeah, I assume
Damn
coffee.
cup
Or tea, I don't know. Maybe it's the Yusuke blend, I don't know.
Maybe it's the Yusuke blend. Yeah.
All the women are asking for the Yusuke blend.
Yes, all of the women. But yeah, so we just get to spend a nice kind of quiet moment, hanging out with Pops and Nana, which is then kind of immediately interrupted by Godai being like, well, anyway, I gotta fucking go die.
Well, yeah,
you know, like my namesake? Yeah. Well, they don't call me Yusuke for nothing.
Literally wrote down, anyways, see ya, Pops, I gotta go die. By the way, I'm Kuga, didn't I tell you?
Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Kuga. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see them finally piece that together.
Wait a minute.
cries a little bit.
This was a fun scene, really, for just a lot of it, because it starts off so comfy and cozy, and you think it's that's how it's probably going to end too, but it honestly ends kind of combative, because Nana's pretty upset with him as he drops this random bomb of like, hey, I'm going to go do this fight to the death with some stranger, and if I live it, I'm then going to go on vacation. You will not see me again for an unknown amount of time, which, like, Nana is reasonably upset about. Pops is obviously at a point where he had been encouraging him to go on another adventure, so he's okay with it, and is instead kind of sitting in this stunned silence after that revelation of Yusuke being like, well, I have to go find him. I'm Kuga. I'm the guy who does it. And Pops realizing that Kuga means ULF number 4, and, like, everything that implies throughout the whole show. Just Pop's kind of sitting there, like, you can kind of see him putting the pieces together
the mental
in his head.
calculus in front of him.
Yeah.
Which is so funny, given that this is probably, like, the 6th time that Yusuke just said, oh yeah, I'm Kuga.
Uh-huh. But this is the first time he's said I'm Kuga in any, like, context that frames anything around it.
It's true.
Yeah. It just amuses me very much that we do have a very clear understanding of who does and does not know that Yusuke Godai is Kamen Rider Kuga.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very funny that he is not remotely an agent of secrecy in this.
No.
He doesn't care who knows. He's not hiding it. He's very open about it. He's just also he's not giving anyone any context.
Yeah.
So he's told Tomosamuro so many times, oh yeah, I'm Kuga, with no context. Something about that is just very funny to me.
Don't you people get this? I keep telling you I'm Kuga. What do you think that means? Oh well.
I didn't know
We don't
what it
know.
means.
I
That's
ran
on
through
you.
the actresses last time. I asked about the singer. You didn't say anything, Godai. How was I supposed to know you meant you were a goddamn alien?
Well, that's unrelated to him being Kamen Rider. I also I don't remember if this came up in 47, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. They just start cranking the fucking film grain on the intro. Give it that overlay. It's all muddy.
I think
and gross.
so. Yeah.
It's still the exact same shots, but they put a little over it. So it just looks,
Pull
it's looking
stank on it.
gross and dark and gritty. instead of
Didn't have
incredibly
time to
orange.
Make a new one
That's
for
fine.
the vibes.
It's fine.
Yeah,
They
it's
got the
not bad.
vibes, and they you know, they sprinkle in those fun little like, because the do always has like one little extra shot in it that has that's something. I believe it's what's his nuts, Mr. Zero, Mr. Dagobah.
I think one of them
For
is
this one.
Dagobah, and then one of them is
48 is Dagobah. 49 is something else,
yeah.
which I did like.
I also like that we go back to the original set of lyrics from way back in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I guess so. That one I was.
Such a fun touch.
Yeah.
That one I might have glazed over. I was so distracted by the film grade.
No, that's fair. It's one of those things where if you're not paying attention for it, it's easy enough to miss. But yeah, we go back to the first set of lyrics for the opening, which I thought was very fun. Speaking of things getting opened, old Ichijo, yeah, old Ichijo is in this weird abandoned warehouse thing. He has found some Grongi paper that has Grongi writing on it. What it says, we will never know. But
just translate it at home, you guys who figured out the language on their own.
Yeah.
Chop.
We'll get in the Wayback Machine. We'll go find some Japanese forums.
Yeah, time to look up ancient Reddit. see them cracking that code.
I believe
This is
it.
back before 2chan was a complete cesspool.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Hopefully.
probably some threads.
Yeah, there were probably
The
some
brain,
threads.
the brain trust, the think tank was getting on it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to translate the Grongi.
But yeah, so Ichijo's he's found this Grongi paper and he's trying to figure out what it says. When our Rose Woman shows up and Ichijo on his cop shit is like, hey, what does this say? What's the ultimate darkness?
And then
Fucking
Rose
put
Woman
your
says
hands up.
ACAB.
Yeah.
Straight up, just like, yeah, you Linto are so fucking violent now. You're just like us. And you're like, no. Fight for justice. Like, you hunt other Linto?
And then he just shoots her a bunch, and that really proves how nonviolent he is.
Yeah. He really drives down
He
home
just
how
fills her with
non-violent-
holes. That was
He absolutely lights her ass up.
way more just full-on squibs in perfect view than I thought was
Yeah.
going to happen in this situation, but kind of ruled.
It was kind of an enjoyable death scene, really, especially because it ends with her looking at him, and in the Grongi language being like, "I like you. I hope I get to meet you again," and then falling into the water.
You're so funny.
You're so
And
funny.
then dies.
Twirls.
Dies while
If
serving time.
reincarnation exists or if the afterlife exists, I think we should go out, guys.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I understand this feeling, I think.
Yeah, I think this exact scenario is very understandable.
Really, honestly, yeah.
And we get like this singular shot where they didn't put a cover on the lens in the rain, which I don't know if it gave them the effect they wanted or if they even meant to do that, because it's just a bunch of water on a lens.
Listen, sometimes you just gotta put a bunch of water on a lens. I don't know what to tell you.
You know, you're getting water on the fourth wall. I don't know if that's really going the way you want it to. It's just kind of blocking me. I want to get some windshield wipers. So
You got my fourth wall wet.
Experimental cinema.
for a shot of Zero just going like, hey.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there. On a roof or something. I couldn't tell.
Being
There's too
all
much
Among
water
Us
in the
sus.
way.
Anyway, we murdered a woman in cold blood, and
Sure did.
we know the blood is cold because we watched it all come out. We need a little bit of levity. Let's go back to the kindergarten. We can watch Godai play with some childrens and
Bye, kids.
try
Gotta
to find
die.
a way. Yeah, I was gonna say try to find a way to tell them he's gonna go get murdered without explicitly saying the words "I'm not coming back."
Your Uncle Godai is going on a vacation.
Gonna live up to his namesake. Yeehaw.
Moving out to the ranch.
Yeah, I
Yeehaw.
mean, like, I definitely wrote down later he went up to the he went up to the beach upstate where he could run around with all the other Kamen Riders. Which isn't untrue. There's movies.
Yeah, no, that's true.
God. Just
I especially enjoy this scene, because obviously, being at the kindergarten means that we are also, hanging out with Minori. But we don't really talk to each other. And instead we use the children as our emotional proxies.
That was good.
That
was
shit was
really
so good.
Wish I could stop focusing on the kids not being great. But
Yeah.
listen, they're babies. They're literal babies.
They're literally babies.
I can gloss over it, but whew.
They recited their lines very well. They remembered every word.
I got a very solid reminder that these are literal babies. I was like, okay. But these two are acting around them, and it's crazy.
It's so good. I just love not a single word is directly spoken between Godai and Minori, and that kind of rules.
We dancing.
Oh, we are absolutely dancing because we can't just say it because it hurt. It hurt real bad. How are you supposed to just roll up on your sibling and be like, hey, I might not come back? And I'm supposed to look you in the face and be like, yeah, that's cool. Go have fun getting punched.
Yeah, it's not a situation wherein you could ever tell them not to, too.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what I was talking about way back in episode, it's 4 or 5 when, Minori has her why does it have to be him moment. And Sakurako as well, when she has her why does it have to be him moment with Ichijo of having to go through that acceptance of this is a thing that needs to be done and no one else but him can do it, for whatever reasons those are being, he has to be the one to do it, so you can't tell him not to, but God, you really don't want him to. But what's your alternative? We let Daguva just go around murdering the shit out of everything willy-nilly so we can keep Godai alive? Obviously that's not conducive to the way the rest of the world works, but also Godai himself wouldn't like that. So you just kind of have to accept the fact that, hey, this might be the last time you see your older brother. And it's damn, that sure hurt. Cries, screams, shovels dirt into mouth.
This entire episode is full of crying, and this wasn't even the point where I cried as much as I did later in the episode.
I think I know which one.
I'm curious.
I might. Well, I mean, we'll get there, right?
Fair enough. I think it is the next scene, though.
It's probably in the next scene, yeah, because we have a brief moment where Ichijo basically reports that he's finally killed.
He's finally got a
Rose
miscellaneous kill.
Yeah, put one up on the board for the boy.
God bless him. He's been trying the whole series to kill one of these fucking things himself.
He really has, and he finally got it. Police too.
She let him.
He also had the super exploder bullets.
Yeah, I was gonna say he also had Bullets too, the sequel to Bullets.
It's true. It's just I
but
can't
also
help
she
but
let
feel
him.
like, yeah.
No, she super let him, yeah. And after that, we go back to Jonan University, where Jean and Sakurako are. I think it is that Jean is trying to make sure that Sakurako is okay, and Sakurako is very clearly waiting for Godai.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is not unfair to say that they are waiting for Godai to show up.
I love that
he
play.
does.
Okay, I was just gonna...
Waiting for Godai.
Yeah.
I know there's a reference being here, but I can't place it for some reason.
Well, let's
Damn, that
wait
sucks.
on it and see
Cool.
if we figure things out.
You know what, Fats? That's just how it is on this bitch of an earth. so we gotta move on.
But yeah, so we get to have a well, I'm not going to call it particularly fun conversation between Sakurako and Godai outside under the the awning of the university as it is continuing to pour rain. in the pitch blackness of 5:30 p.m. in the winter. This scene is great. Especially just the way it starts with, Godai pulling up, he's getting off his bike and he's obviously preparing to go in, and we just see Sakurako running up with her umbrella in front of her.
And well, yeah, she didn't want him to climb in the rain. It's dangerous.
Yeah, obviously. It's dangerous. And when, the umbrella stops covering her face, she's smiling initially, but, obviously the conversation that we have has to happen. And it is...
She knows that he would prefer to see her smiling than crying. This is a conversation that could only go the way that it did because she knows him so intimately.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just,
I do feel a little bad for her because I think she's the one whose moment gets a little shafted out of all these conversations.
It definitely is.
But boyfriend call in the middle of it.
It's true, but I kind of like that.
I was
going to
say. It's kind of very indicative of how their whole relationship has been throughout the show, too. Of, whenever they try to... Whenever Sakurako, tries to make sure that Godai is okay or, be there for Godai, that will start happening and then kind of get interrupted by, hey, Ichijo just called, there's some monster you have to go kill. Have fun, I guess. And I'll see you off and try not to worry. And that's exactly what happens here.
I think here's my read.
Hit me with it.
Here's my read that I don't know if it's intended, but it is at least emblemized. In that I think Sakurako, being Yusuke's basically oldest friend, is probably the one that might have been stalling the most in the conversation. And truly the one who just never stopped having things to say, even as he drove off. And that one got me.
Yeah. Fucking her running out and yelling, "Hang in there, I'll leave the window unlocked."
Yeah.
That shit hurted.
It's also I've had serious conversations with people, then something kind of innocuous just happens and it's oh, well, we can't have that conversation anymore. It's something else is happening now that requires more immediate attention, and it's that hurts because
I've been in a similar boat.
Yeah, it's such an undercut of any sort of closure. So Sakurako doesn't get anything from that. She's just left there. And on a personal level, I'm just hey, that really hurts.
Yeah. It is unfortunately sort of the position that Sakurako has been in kind of the whole time, is she's had to kind of just watch Godai drive off to something dangerous and hope and pray to herself that he'll be all right, because she never gets the chance to tell him, keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I just... Ow.
And that leads us to we've got one more character, obviously, that we're going to need to say goodbye to. As we mentioned, we've gotten the call from Ichijo. The police have set up their tracking system and have found Dagava. It's time to go hunt him down and get this thing done. So, we see Dagava in some area where he's murdered a bunch of other... I don't know why the fuck I assumed these were Grongi at the time. These were probably just a bunch of people.
Those were just dudes. They were in normal clothes.
Those are just a bunch of people that he set on fire and then left in a field.
Yeah. No, some of them just looked like children as well.
Yeah, kind of, huh?
Kind of exploded an area.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
Thanks, man. Very cool.
Nondescriptly exploded an area. Don't worry about it.
Ultimate darkness.
Well,
fire.
I guess he has not to jump ahead too far, but he is able to cast light you on fire spell.
We saw him do it last episode.
Oh shit, yeah, I guess he does do
So
that.
he lit all those cars and that dude in that car on fire.
That he just went like, ha, now you're on fire.
Yeah, like, "Ah."
No, oh. It feels like such a children's.
Yeah, right?
A
You're
little
on
bit,
fire
yeah.
now. No, I cast my
No,
fire.
you're
I have
not.
anti-fire shield powers.
Come on, no.
You can't do that.
Oh, children.
We're stalling because this hurts.
Yeah, it's but
And
the
the-
scene leading up to it is great. Of Godai, making it to the scene of the crime where Homeboy is, and he's just they don't even have a conversation. They're
No.
just kind of standing there looking at each other, and then Ichijo shows up, and our villain teleports away, and Godai's like, he told me to meet him, back where all of this started. I know where to go. And Ichijo's like, all right, let's do it. And the two of them on their own special motorbikes ride off into the night to go to this final confrontation up on the snowy mountain in Nagano.
Where we don't
And-
have to do rain effects anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I truly wonder if that was rain, if they were just doing artificial rain like I would generally just expect for any piece of media with rain in it, or if they just caught the rainiest fucking days in Japan possible and just were like, get the cameras out, get everybody get in positions.
Go, do it,
It's
do
a
it.
downpour. We got to film our scenes. Like, because
Yeah.
they did those wide shots with Sakurako, as he was leaving, and it was a pretty
Mhm.
impressive area of coverage for artificial rain if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just a man with a hose in the background.
Yeah, right. You usually just have a shower on two people while you do a close up.
Yeah,
I-
they might have just caught in a lucky downpour.
I mean, yeah, Japan does have those quite a bit.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a seasonal, but for sure they do have them. But yes, it was probably a little bit easier to just deal with a place that is already snowy, but not actively snowing all that much, and
Mhm.
the active snow was probably fake on close-ups as well, and super CGI fake on wides.
Mhm.
But I don't blame them, and it's a much more visually interesting area for sure.
It sure is, especially for what we do with it. But before we can talk about that, we have to talk about easily the gayest scene in the entirety of this show. This conversation between Godai and Ichijo is so gay. It is amazing.
Yeah.
Even making out might not have made it gayer.
I would
Yeah,
literally
really.
just wrote down kiss with tongue
Yeah,
command. Kiss with tongue.
just do it. Please kiss. Just kiss
You
him.
should
We-
always give the love of your life detailed instructions on how to kill you.
Yeah.
It's so true.
What is
Fellas,
more
is it
romantic
gay?
than that?
This.
I'm hard pressed to think of anything more romantic than here's the exact way in which I need you to murder me, should it come to that.
And I gotta say, I was already losing my mind, and it only got gayer from there.
Mhm.
After Godai's like, "Hey, shoot me in the belt if things go bad," that might do the trick. Afterward, you could see the turmoil in Ichijo as he worries that he's about to see Yusuke for the final time.
He's so sad.
And he musters his courage to say, "I'm sorry to have roped you into all of this." And Godai interrupts
Cuts
him
him off.
to say, "Actually, I wanted to say thank you. I'm glad that this happened because then I got to meet you."
Yeah.
It's so gay.
Okay, so I have said
Fellas.
the line, "I'm glad I got to meet you" before, and I have to just hope that the person I'm saying it to understands that I'm talking platonically, because that line sounds gay in any goddamn context. Like, oh my god.
It's it is a very gay statement to say to anyone, but especially at this time, at this
Yeah.
scene, in this context, the two of
Localized
them
in
by
Canada
themselves.
is not done.
Yeah,
In the gentle snowfall
Yeah.
with their
Yeah.
misty eyes.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
In their
Oh my
in their
God.
nice high collared coats.
hmm
Looking
then
stylish,
just-
honestly.
just to make it all just that little extra touch gayer, and to we've had beginnings. It's time to have endings. Let's put a nice little bow on the whole series.
By kissing with tongue.
As by kissing with by doing the next best thing that we can on Japanese television, which is Yusuke saying once again, "Please watch my henshin."
Oh yeah.
It is,
Gosh.
and it's the final henshin.
It's the final
Please watch
one.
my final henshin. It is
Mhm.
pretty sick for
It's-
2001 era special effects. The shitty snow overlay, I think, really helped. Actually,
hmm
it made
I
it
am
look
a big fan
pretty
of
solid.
the suit. It is a wonderful suit.
And I feel like we've been glossing over this a little bit, and being caught up in the emotions of all of the interactions, but part of why Yusuke is so worried is because this is the transformation, like, beyond what he's done before. This is him stepping into the ultimate weapon transformation.
Yeah.
And in multiple ways, whether he survives the fight or not, this is another one of those things that he's not sure that he can come back from with himself intact.
Yeah. It's
I'm throwing up and crying.
it's God. Absolutely 100% puking, crying, shoveling snow into my mouth, puking it back up. Just everything about everything that leads up to this fight is so excellent. And then also this fight, I love this fight. This is probably one of my favorite final villain fights in all of Kamen Rider. This fight is so good. I think my favorite thing about it is the simplicity, and the combination of simplicity and brutality, that is in this fight, because we're not doing very fancy choreography. We're not doing lots of flips and kicks and back elbows and things like that. It's a lot of just like punches, like single solid punches as hard as we can to the chest. But like, we're doing this like a Mortal Kombat fight. Like, blood is just splurting out
Yeah,
of
the
every
jibs.
orifice that we hit. Yeah.
The jibs on every punch was really good. I am incredibly split on this fight,
Really?
and I think
What are
my
your thoughts?
well, first of all, I see a dude in black rolling up in a white environment to a dude in white, and I'm like, Hideo Kojima's taking notes right now in
Yeah.
2001. But let's make this the greatest 10 minutes of our life, Yusuke. And boy, is it just kind of 10 minutes of their life.
Yeah?
I don't want to take away too much, because what it has is good. I think this fight needed an entire episode more. They needed one more episode in this show just for this
I-
conflict.
I don't disagree.
First of all, the opening move of them both lighting each other on fire is really fucking funny, though.
It's super good.
funny.
I can't light you on fire. Well, I can't light you on fire.
It doesn't even last.
It does not even
They're just
last.
on
I
fire
don't even think it's real
for like
fire
5
whatsoever.
seconds.
I think it's just CG
It's
fire.
very, very funny. I'm not entirely certain what the point of that was, but cool.
Just wanted to do it once.
You're not so different, you and I.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
yeah.
No, that's not true in this case at all. Is the thing.
It's such a
I think
man.
that's what it was trying to do.
Boy, it sure had a lot of
I-
things that it felt like it was that they kind of wanted to put in. That's why I'm saying this shit needed another episode, because boy, we pulled dare I say, we pulled the Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh.
In that all of the motivation and symbolism was explained after the fact.
A little bit.
And I got a little miffed because they were serving, because I'm vaguely skipping ahead to 49 things, but they were serving me a lot of things that I really liked. Why wasn't it there? Why did you? Why? Man, like, okay, they probably ran out of money, right?
I was
Probably.
thinking
There's a
the
very
same
good
thing,
chance
yeah.
that they ran out of money
Like,
4 episodes
It
ago.
feels so cynical, but also, yeah, 4 episodes ago sounds about right, given what they've given us these last 3. And I don't want to take away by, like, you know, having emotional core episodes, but, like, I have other issues. I have issues with this final boss. Who the fuck is he? What is he? Like, I understand that you could, yeah,
It's like, no.
you don't have to explain everything to me. I understand that there is value in ambiguity, and that there is value in, even sometimes value in a complete lack of motivation. But you just sold me 47 episodes previously. Sorry, 46, we'll say. 46 episodes of a 48 other guys having a contest to
be
do
the one who
some,
gets to fight this dude.
to be the one who fights this dude, which I guess is what it just turned into. But, like, who the fuck is this man?
Yeah, no,
why
that's,
is he
that's
here?
fair.
Why is he so powerful? Why do everybody care? Aside from him killing people. Like, what are his motivations? I just really wanted to learn anything about this man, even from his own mouth. He just,
I mean, I feel like we get at least a little bit of a taste into his motivations, in that he does seem to revel in the killing. He seems to really like doing murders.
I mean,
yeah.
We get that much at the very least,
I
and
think
maybe that's all there is to it.
the thing is, I almost agree, except Shakes has brought up the other, like, 46 episodes of having this structured kind of conflict and, like,
Right.
hierarchy.
They have
And
rules and
so-
stuff.
And so I think Dagava as, like, a character could easily, like, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to be like, oh, well, you know, he is emblematic of, like, the senseless violence that has been, like, going across Japan recently. Except it doesn't really feel like any of the other ones were a lead up to that, because of how methodical they were and how much
Right.
rules they had.
Yeah, Dagobah himself has no rules.
Whereas,
Yeah,
like,
he just sort of goes around and casts explosion or whatever. We didn't have the special effects to
If,
give
like-
him powers.
yeah, if they established a rule for him, and, like, they previously established, even, like, in a 1 or 2 lines throughout the entire show, just like, oh, these rules are, like, bleeding down from Dagava's rule and how he kills people or whatever, then, like, that's fine. But I don't think there was enough to be shown. Like, there's not enough to explicitly be seen with it, where I can be like, yes, this in text makes sense, because right now it's just, like, retroactively I can make it make sense.
You can
Yeah.
fill in some holes
Yeah,
that weren't
exactly.
filled with guesswork, but, like,
Which is, like, it's fine if that's the case, as you mentioned. But it's, like, it's not the show we've had so far.
That's
yeah,
fair.
the shift, and not just in tone. It's like, I understand the tonal shift of a climactic battle, but boy, there was just sort of like a real shift in the, I don't know, in the vibes, I guess, of any of these conflicts already established. It's like like me and Nana basically are saying very similar things here. Like, I guess it makes me ask, why are the Grongi even doing this? If the contest is to fight Dagba, what is the prize for beating Dagba?
Strongest in the world. Is
Yeah.
my only
Yeah, I mean
assumption.
that's my thought is like when you're looking at Dagova, you're looking at the heavyweight world champion of murder, and like if you can do your weird jumping through hoops, you get a chance at the belt.
Sure, yeah. What's the heavyweight champion fighting for, I guess? Like, like even the person holding the belt usually has something
Yeah.
they're rocking, right? Like I'm the top of the mountain, and I want people to test themselves against me because I believe something anything.
Right. Yeah.
What does this character believe in? I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to a character that's just kind of a force of nature, a bit of chaos. Like, but like, I don't know, maybe have him cause more chaos.
Yeah, I think if he'd just done a little more than kind of just driving home he just like murders people in mass because that's what he finds enjoyment in, would have stuck a little more, because they do more so than in everything else, but at least in his like various fights and all of his interactions with Godai, he is always talking about, entertain me. What are you going to do to entertain me? How are you going to make me enjoy this? And when you see him in the fight, he's very clearly enjoying himself. He's having an absolute blast during this fight.
And that's my second question, because what is he doing to entertain him outside of, well, I'm a different color now, I guess I punch better?
I mean, like, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like
maybe need you to punch better. Yeah, I get. Okay,
maybe
this
is kind of where the notion of the game comes from. You have to do murders in a weird way to entertain them, and that will give you, theoretically, if you can make it to the end, then that will prove you are strong enough that, like, maybe fighting you will actually be a little bit of fun.
Okay, so here's my next thing. Here's my further hitting the nail of this needed this needed one more episode of this fight. Because this was explained in retrospect, once again, and yeah, basically all I'm saying is everything they gave me on the table of what this fight meant to the guy, because honestly, yeah, like everything I've been saying, like what they explained in retrospect is actually perfectly acceptable for Dagba's motivations.
Yeah.
But we also didn't get it on Yusuke's end. We got Yusuke's humanity, right? We got all of his discussion of fucking like saying goodbye and shit, right? And like the brief little, like, they sort of like tickled the notion of corruption, right? But I feel like that was supposed to be so much more about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I'm picturing this fight, given its own episode, is as they elaborated, Yusuke a while ago had a vision of the black armor, and it was all black, including the eyes. And Ichijo points out in retrospect, that Kuga's eyes were red as ever, and so. And he did a good, but like, so if all this dude wanted was to see Yusuke give into the darkness, to go to a place he's never been before, and then so that he may attain the strength to even make scratches on him, and that's where he's getting his kicks, even in defeat. That they needed that time. They needed that time to tease Yusuke not succeed, to tease the notion that he would need to be put down by Ichijo, right? They needed like a moment where he was fighting without red eyes, and then like like lighten up at a certain point, and it still could have been knockdown drag out. Like you just needed just a little pinch, right? Just a pinch.
No, that's very fair. Yeah.
Of content, and maybe a little, just like any lines of dialogue. But you could probably do it without him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very torn because what they gave us wasn't bad, but I could
Could've been
feel
better.
what was missing.
Yeah.
Um
No, I get that. And this is definitely, now that now that you're kind of, we're going through it and I'm thinking about it, this definitely would have been handled a lot better in a more modern Kamen Rider. They would have just kind of done what they've done a lot of the times in Kamen Riders now at this point, which it's something that I actually really enjoy every time they do it, which is they would have had Yusuke go into, if not this exact suit that he went into in this episode, maybe like the black and gold suit he went into when he kills Grongi Prince
mhm.
at some point in time before this fight happened, and had that, or even a couple of instances of him using that suit be times where he would like just kind of go berserk and just kind of be this violent attacking thing that cannot discern friend from foe.
Right.
So that way, there's this precedent of like, okay, yes, this thing that you are using makes you insanely powerful, but it also makes you insanely dangerous. And like, how do we weigh our our need for you to be stronger in order to fight the battles that are coming ahead with the notion that we might not be able to survive it if you keep doing that. There would have, and obviously there would have been some point in time where he would have found a way to overcome it. That's why we would have gotten our black and gold Kuga suit with red eyes, and we would have gone forward from there. But yeah, without any of that having been established either earlier or during this fight, it's definitely lacking a little bit.
I have like the main meat, I think, the real like kicker punctuation between my idea of how, at least in my view, this would have worked better,
Mm-hmm.
does come from a different thing that comes next episode. so I don't want to hold it up too bad, but I do want, there is definitely something I want to make note of once we get there. That said, in this time right now, those fucking punch cuts.
Ooh.
Oh.
The punch, yeah, where you see them in their human guises, as it were.
Yeah, where their armor and the punch crosses, and they're human, and the punch crosses their armor. It's like, oh,
yeah. And God, I love the bit of that point where you're seeing those two, and they're just like on their knees in the snow trying to punch each other as hard as they can, and you look at Human Dagova, and he's got blood all over his face and this big manic grin, and look at him, he's having the time of his life. And they do it again, and they go to Godai, who's in a similar position of he's got blood all over his face, blood on his fits, and he looks miserable.
Yeah.
Godai looks so fucking sad. He hates this so much.
Making the happy guy cry is just mwah.
But here's the thing.
So good.
Here's the thing. Yusuke succeeded in the mission he always has with every person. He made them smile.
God damn.
It's true.
Fuck, this is so true.
And on that
God,
note, I will say this show was a success. That shit's cool to think about.
Yeah.
Just need to learn.
I forgot about this chunk of the fight where it's just them out of suit, just punching each other in the snow, like not even cutting back into the suits, just
double clotheslines.
Yeah, the double clothesline.
The refs start counting.
Yeah. God. And then the way the episode ends, just with Ichijo cresting over the hill finally, and looking upon the battlefield and fucking screaming out Godai's name. Wonderful.
Can't believe he's fucking dead.
Gay. 3, I then have issues with how the episode 49 starts.
Nice boat.
Yeah, true. Let's talk about it then. Episode 49, Kuga, our final episode of Kamen Rider Kuga. Original air date January 21st, 2001. 3 months after the final defeat of Dagiva, several snapshots of those involved in the Grongi crisis are seen as they all give their approach to Yusuke and the lessons he gave them. So we start on, just where we got folks. We are reminiscing. I believe we start in Pol, if I recall correctly. Or do we start? No.
It's the
Do we start in Pol, or
right?
do we start? Yeah, I think we do start in the police station. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, everybody's looking to the sun, the rising sun, a
Mhm.
new dawn of peace. And boy,
Yeah.
it's a real, it's a real shame Yusuke's fucking dead.
Yeah. It's a shame. Well, I'm gonna miss that guy, Yusuke. He sure was great.
Then cut to another cop talking in the same scene. Yeah, his strength is always something to look up to, and it's like, wait, you're just talking. You talk about him both in the current and present tense, and then
they're in denial. It's real sad.
yeah.
He
And
hates
then
to
they
see
never talk about him in the past tense again.
it. Yeah, it's
On
a
account
little...
of everybody's denial.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
Yusuke
Yeah.
is fucking dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going on that adventure that they talked
upstate.
Yeah.
We'll see him again for sure. Don't worry.
The director of Kamen Rider Kuga came over to my house when I watched this episode and said, Yusuke's dead, and then
Yeah.
floated away.
If Yusuke wasn't dead, why would they give you that fake out where they cut to the Kuga apron and psych, it's just still Pops.
Yeah.
It's just Pops wearing the Kuga
Yeah.
apron. He's dead.
It's just Pops wearing the because
aw.
it is cute that he's wearing the Kuga apron.
It's like, yeah,
Gotta wear 'em.
now you get it, Pops.
Now you understand.
Yeah, he's gonna cut it into pieces and put it in his scrapbook. He's gotta
He's
wear it
gonna-
at least once.
Cut loose with the accelerator of the apron.
Gotta cut loose with the accelerator.
Sure.
Just like I cut loose with that sen structure. Jesus Christ.
Speaking of cuts, Nana's
Speaking of
haircut.
cuts.
She is ready to enter the 2000s officially.
Yes, she is. She's it. She is with it.
That is-
She's a 21st century girl.
It's nuts. I was like, man, that hair. And then I was like, yeah, 2001. And never mind. That is just normal hair. That's just how it was.
Girl.
I forget who enters Pol first. Is it the teacher or is it Jean?
It's
I believe
the
it's the teacher, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Jean is already there, I believe.
Is Jean already?
No, he's there when we come back.
Yeah.
I want to say nobody. It's just, I think it's just Pops and Nana first, right?
I think I could have sworn the teacher at least comes in when
I
we
think he
first
comes
check
in
on
after
Pol Pol.
John.
Yeah.
Because they have the whole thing with the blend.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? You are so right.
I
You are
think
so 100%
Pops
right.
and Nana kind of kick off our Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
That this episode is going to mostly be.
Mm-hmm. Which, I'm never opposed to a Where Art Thou Now
It's an
episode.
epilogue.
I love checking in on my side characters. It's a hell of a lot more than we did in Ichigo.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, like if there's one thing I will never take away from this series is that even with my current disappointments in its final fight, it sure as hell ain't that.
Yeah. Good lord.
No, it's not even the final.
That would just be unfair to even compare them.
Yeah. At this point, it's
Just,
truly we are doing both shows a disservice. We're sorry.
I'm not.
Well, all right. I can't speak for all of us.
Look, just remember the final fight of Kamen Rider Ichigo and then be disappointed with me.
All right. No, I wanted to try and choose to be stronger, but I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to pivot now and talk about happier things, like
Yeah.
this letter that Pops received from our good friend Mika. She got into
Yeah.
high school. She got into the high school of her choice. Good for her.
Playing
And
the
she's-
flute.
Still playing the flute. You love to see it.
I
We
genuinely
have a
do.
nice little. Yeah.
Unironically, I'm so happy for her.
Yeah. It's legitimately, it is really nice to see Mika doing better, like, all things considered, between how she started at the beginning of the show, and then where we left her the last time we saw her, which
Yeah.
was essentially traumatized by Ichijo.
Look,
It's
it was
nice
shaky.
to
It was shaky at the end, but it was
Yeah.
it was a net positive throughout. It started low and it just kind of went up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the point is we've ended in a much higher note, and we love to see that. We get to see Nana shows up while Pops is working on his Kuga scrapbook, and we get to find out she has gotten a role in a TV show. Good for you, Nana. Well, she got a role into something. Good for you, Nana. For your good deeds, you will receive one forehead pressing from Pops. Just jam that thumb right in there. We get to go check on Enokita, trying to be a good mom. Yay!
She doesn't have to do work anymore. She can finally be a mother. Ichijo, like, sorry.
Mother. Yeah. And apparently at some point we taught her son how to do the Godai thumbs up.
I mean, yeah. It's just required.
Yeah, this is state mandated at this point.
And
But yeah.
going to Disney World.
We're going
they're
to
going to Disney!
Disneyland! I can't believe... Aren't you excited, little kid? You're going to Disneyland. To be a young child going to Disneyland.
Honestly.
And then
it's Tokyo Disneyland too, probably.
Yeah.
Unless they're you know what? Never mind. Hold on. I'm gonna withhold that statement.
I'm so confused now. What?
No,
Don't worry about it.
makes sense,
Ichijo is just trying not to cry about his dead boyfriend in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's in denial.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of people trying not to cry about Ichijo's dead boyfriend, Jean, yeah, whatever, I'm still gonna go with that. Jean has shown up at Pol. He's trying to get that Yusuke blend. It's like he can still be here.
All the boys want it.
All the boys need that Yusuke blend, if you know what I'm saying. And damn, John, you're looking pretty sharp. Well, that's a nice haircut. And he's like, you think so? Well, I got to look good. I'm going to Disneyland tomorrow.
John Wayman getting in there.
My boy, my fucking boy.
I
John,
actively cheered. I actively cheered.
Fucking love that shit.
That is like such a so like, you know, we've been shot calling this whole thing, the whole show, basically as soon as he set eyes on her.
Yeah.
And I don't think the show is making any effort not to give you the hints, but I do really appreciate how it came, you know, how it finally gets wrapped up as far as we're concerned in the story.
Uh-huh.
It's such a like it gives you really just enough time of just two separate ideas, and you're like, wait a minute.
Hey, wait a minute.
My man.
My man. All right, you go, white boy.
So they might be going to Anaheim. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Going to the OG. They're going to Disneyland,
America.
not Tokyo Disneyland.
Yeah, we're going to Disneyland.
Wait, hold on.
I'm 95% sure Tokyo Disneyland was extant by 2001 because
that's what I'm checking.
I've been told that my family took
was
visits
83.
to Tokyo Disneyland while they were there.
It was a very early, very early build. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably mixing it up in my brain with Euro Disneyland, which was in the 2000s somewhere, and
that sounds
also
about right.
Significantly less well received.
Yeah, but that's a different show. Go watch the Funkland.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, so Jean is there. He's trying to get his hands on the Yusuke blend. Our friend teacher shows up. He's also trying to get his hands on the Yusuke blend, and we get an interesting
Shame he
little
took it to the
reveal
grave.
here. Yeah, really. we get an interesting little reveal here as, Pops is like, what is this Yusuke blend? I've never heard of this Yusuke blend. And the teacher's like, oh, well, you said it was based off of a blend made by some guy named Tamasaburo. And, they're like, yeah, do you know Tamasaburo? He's like, oh, I've heard of Tamasaburo. Do you want me to go get him? I can get him, and I can have him make the coffee for you. And he goes over to the stairs, and he's like, hey Tamasaburo, can you come down? And he walks up the stairs. And he walks back down the stairs and is like, what's up? I'm Tamasaburo Kazari. What a weird scene that was, but I kind of loved it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Full name, 11th hour.
Anyway, by the way, yeah. Just what a fun way to reveal, especially the way Pops looks almost offended throughout that whole thing. Just starting with the Yusuke blend, going into it was based on some guy named Tamasaburo that we don't know, to him fucking revealing himself the prestige. I was Tamasaburo.
Your name was Pops.
Yeah. It was me, Austin. Oh, son of a bitch.
That fucking guy from Johnny Bravo. His name's just Pops.
Yeah, really.
We truly didn't think you had a real name.
Yeah. We were just, some kids are born as a Pops. It just happens.
He just came out like that.
Yeah, some kids just come out old.
And he's the younger brother.
I mean, yeah, there you go. It can happen to anyone. Apologies it didn't happen to UB.
It's fine.
It's okay.
We hop on over to the hospital where Ichijo and Tsubaki are talking about Ichijo's dead boyfriend and what a cool guy he was. And then Tsubaki's like, oh, by the way, I got a letter from Chono, and also he mailed me a knife. Do you think it's a threat?
No, it's okay. We're just watching my favorite video, Grongi Fanboy Maximum Social Link Good End. Full movie.
Yeah.
Oh, God, true.
I was not expecting the wrap up like that, though. Just.
Here's my knife. I won't be needing it anymore.
I won't be needing it where I'm going. Where are you going?
I'm going to
To
start
Disneyland.
Oh, shut up! Alright, Adoki, I see you.
No, he just heard there was MILFs there.
He's on a hunt. So we head back to Pol Pol to reminisce about our dead friend Godai for a little while longer. And then it's, there's been some talk between last episode and this episode. We're doing some symbolism about, the importance of a bright blue sky. And that's, we're getting more and more shots of a beautiful bright blue sky, the glimpse into the future of peace and happiness that's been made now that Godai is dead. Ichijo goes to give his one last final condolence to Minori over at the kindergarten, and we get to have a kid run up and be like, Miss Minori, why is Godai dead?
It's still it's probably good, right?
Yeah. Don't worry. He'll maybe come back to life somehow. You know how Godai is. Can't keep a good man down, or so they say. But we get an enjoyable little conversation between Minori and Ichijo about just kind of everything that happened as we look at the children playing and are like, damn, the children really are the future, or whatever the fuck. Speaking of children and being the future.
Anyways, moving on. Lucky
Meanwhile,
Baby! Reblog for 10 years of Good Luck Babies.
Yes, Good Luck Baby! I can't believe I almost forgot about that. Yes, we've got an adorable new baby here. Everybody come look at the baby. Our other teacher, whose name I'm drawing a blank on now.
Keiko.
Eiko, thank you. Yes, Eiko.
Keiko.
Oh, Keiko, yes.
Keiko.
Thank you. Keiko has shown up with her beautifully born, wonderfully delivered, healthy-looking new baby. And we're all very happy about it.
Just in time for the monsters to go away.
Just in time for the
Lucky
monsters to
her.
go away. You couldn't have timed that better, Keiko. Good job. Good mothering. And finally we end the series on some nondescript island where some
okay. Sorry. Time for
Please.
me to roll it back a little.
All right, roll it.
The pull discussion should not be glossed over, I don't think.
That's fair.
And God, at some point I know Ichijo and I feel like Ichijo and Sakurako also had a talk, but
Yes.
was that right before the island? I can't remember.
Maybe it's right before the island.
In any case, the one in the cafe, the note they end that one on, I think is important in that we go over Yusuke's first skill.
Yeah, what was the first skill that Yusuke learned? Can you guess it? I'll give
Murder.
you a hint.
Oh.
Probably not, actually, because I didn't know this counted as a skill.
You know what? I'll give them this. In certain
it is like-
contexts, it is a skill.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is certainly a fun notion, and it is incredibly in character for Yusuke. They say that the first skill that Yusuke Godai ever developed was smiling, which is very sweet and incredibly in character for him. And also, yeah, I'm like Shake said, in certain contexts, it certainly is a skill. Looking back on everything that Godai had to go through throughout the duration of his show, the fact that he was able to keep smiling so often is certainly a skill. I don't think I certainly couldn't have done it.
Here's my take though,
Hit me with it.
and this might sound like a joke, but his first skill was smiling. His final skill, learning how to stop.
Damn.
And that's the linchpin I would put in my rewrite of the finale of Kamen Rider, at least a little bit.
No, that's
I'd probably
so
workshop
fair,
it a little better, but it is just something that occurred to me, especially as we pointed out that final moment where dude's just cracking crazy grins. He's so happy about it, and Yusuke looks fucking miserable.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't think it's incorrect.
It does, like, I'll immediately bash on my own idea just because like, if only because I do worry about consistent theming sometimes, but also some of the theming got a little inconsistent. It's
a little bit.
But it's just kind of that world, right? It's just that kind of moment where you do gotta fight. It happens. I don't know. Like, but the notion of Yusuke maybe turning off the good vibes, at least learning when to selectively turn off the good vibes. Or at least pass on his good vibes.
Yeah.
There could have been
Hold
something
on to
there.
this while I do the difficult stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And in his final act was to pass on the good vibes to the guy he killed.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
May your vibes be good in the grave.
Yeah, bam. Just like mine.
But yes, yeah, there is one more. Ichijo goes and also offers his condolences to Sakurako. We get to talk about our friend Godai and how he was tragically killed, but how to the end he was still a good person. And this is where I believe this is where Ichijo mentions about how Godai said in his vision that the suit was all black, but when I saw him transform, he still had the red eyes and everything. And Sakurako is like, well, I think that's because it was because it was Godai, and he was able to let his happiness and his kindness be the thing that fueled his transformation and his strength, as opposed to hatred and anger and everything that was supposed to be what fueled this form's strength. I think if it was anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to do it, but because it was Godai, he was able to use you know, the fact that he wants to keep people happy and smiling to be able to access this power. Which is, I mean, it's a very common writer sentiment, but it is a wonderful sentiment all the less. You know, I like that at least a good chunk of writers are kind of designed to be people like that, kind of, maybe necessarily not one in a million, but very rare breeds of people with especially great, like, kindness and empathy and sympathy for the world, and it is these notions specifically that spurn them to action more so than any desires of power or rank or station or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. I like those are some of our protagonists of this show. I think it's a cool, nice thing.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Despite the fact that they're beating their head over us over the head with the symbolism, I do like this episode. It's nice.
It's fun. It's nice. It's an enjoyable way to end off the series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love seeing everybody hanging out. I like seeing everyone, you know, be happy and reminiscing on everything, but still also being hopeful for the future. You know, I like seeing that the lessons that we have learned throughout the show are not being, you know, fallen by the wayside. They're being actively worked upon and learned upon and acted upon. You know, it's nice to see all of that, you know, kind of character development and growth, and kind of get a little snapshot of, you know, here's where we are going forward. You know, just a little bit in time, not all the way, but at least a chunk. Oh yeah, also Go Dai's not dead.
What?
I don't see any proof.
Way.
Yeah. He's on this weird nondescript island. I guess in the Pacific. Yeah, I just saw him over there lying on the beach. He was putting his fist in the air. That was weird. Oh, hey, look, he's juggling for some kids now. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Okay.
They aren't Japanese. Where am I?
Hey, wait, yeah.
Weirdo.
There's a black. Where
Two of
I
them,
recognize
if I remember.
yeah, there were two dark skinned kids, in fact, yeah, but one of them was like, no, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. One of them was darker than the other.
Thank you.
Sure.
God.
I feel like I should know vaguely where he was because I recognize Hasta Luego, but I don't remember
Everybody's
where
like
that's from.
multiple languages of greetings. Or,
Well, then
you know,
fuck it.
There was multiple languages being spoke there, which truly still leads me to believe that he is in heaven.
Yeah, of course. Juggling
I'm
for all
not
the children.
convinced that he's not dead. Movies be damned.
Movies be damned. To be fair, I don't know if we like truly just straight up do not know if we have another movie where we see explicitly you know, Yusuke Godai Joe Odagiri. So maybe he is dead. Maybe that was Evan.
Yeah, they're just, you know, the Kuga's soul can be summoned every once in a while, but like, or maybe it's a different Kuga. It is a cycle.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe. Only time will tell. And by only time, I mean whenever we get the chance to check a movie and see if he's in it. Because truly, a lot of the movie crossovers with Kuga, it's just like the Kuga suit.
He's just kind of, yeah,
That's
he's just
sad,
there in a
but
group.
Understandable.
Yeah. Listen, after a certain number of Kamen writers, if you're going to do big crossover events like that, you kind of can't
Yeah.
give everybody screen time.
No, it makes sense. Just,
Yeah. But yeah, there it is. With that, we are all done with Kamen Rider Kuga. 49 episodes up, 49 episodes down. What'd y'all think?
I'm gonna forgo my sarcasm and just be like, this was fantastic. I I think specifically with the end, there were some weird missteps where I assume they probably just ran out of time or budget or something, or maybe couldn't just do exactly what they wanted, but I don't think that's going to impact my overall opinion of it.
Mm.
Like after I've had some time to kind of stew on the episodes.
Chicks, B, well, overall thoughts about the show?
I don't know if I have anything novel to add.
It doesn't have to be novel.
Necessarily, it's a very well. That's me in a nutshell. Then, it's a good show. It's a very good show. I can understand why this was so, why this show was able to really revitalize the franchise as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious what it felt like to watch this as it was airing. It seems like the kind of experience that would really stick with you. Not to say that the show ages poorly, much to my delight, but a caveat, I guess, the CG. It's such a low shot to be like, oh, the CG aged poorly. I think it's such a
That's just, yeah,
complaint to make.
that's cheap.
Yeah.
But the turn of the millennium was such a tumultuous time.
Mm-hmm. Chicks, what about you? Overall thoughts about the show?
I mean, yeah, I think similarly. I get a feeling we're all going to be pretty similar in our thoughts, in that overall.
Listen, that's okay. I just like it. Any if there are any specific insights or things that you want to highlight,
I feel like the most different things I had to say were these last episodes, because otherwise the show was good. Like, it was very interesting, and I don't know, a lot of that, art's very subjective, and our subjectivity very much stemmed from watching 98 episodes of a show that wasn't good. So on that front, there might have been a bit of that, but I think taking an objective look is just like, yeah, no, there's fun to be had. I've seen this with people who don't have I've done my own long time watching, first time writing with other parties in my own way, and like, it's good. It's a lot of fun. It's a wild ride, and it's just my only. It could have been something insane, but yeah, like, it's truly a question of, did they run out of time / money / both? Like, it's not unheard of, especially in Japanese programming. But it's not exclusive to them either. I just, some of the most lauded art has editions of itself that is like, oh yeah, no, the ending was weird because they had no dollars.
I'm curious, actually, because you brought up Ichigo. So I am curious to that end. What was y'all's kind of your kind of take on Kuga as your first taste of more modern Kamen Rider, in comparison both to Ichigo as a show and then just anything else additional that you may have seen or heard, or stuff that maybe even I've talked about other like Heisei, Reiwa, later modern Kamen Riders as well.
I think this is an interesting cross section between kind of the Showa era and the very flashy, sort of commercialized later Heisei stuff that you've kind of spoken of. And that's not necessarily bad. I know that you and I had a discussion a little bit last night of just how I am weirdly cynical for fairly much, or basically no reason, on those later series, because I can more adequately like see that, like, oh, this is marketing, even though not much has really changed throughout the series. But I'm interested in what aspects that they keep from this and kind of remove themselves further from the Showa era. And like, I'm a weird TV watcher. Like, Oh God, is that true? Oh no, I think the most modern shows that I've watched recently, um, Amphibia
Okay.
and Twin Peaks season 3. So
Oh
like,
boy.
so like my perspective of what TV is,
Hmm.
it's kind of not great. I think. So I don't. I I was told this afternoon of just some of my opinions on Kuga are very much person watches this one thing and then sees another thing. Wow, it's just like this one thing. And like
Yeah.
Getting some real
that's
Boss Baby vibes off of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah. It's which is so entirely fair. But it's like I am curious to see just how much of that, oh, it's just like this one thing, will break away or from me watching Kuga and Shin Kamen Rider, because like that's I made a lot of comparisons to Shin Kamen Rider and Kuga in my head and also on podcast, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, how much of these are pre-established things that just Kamen Rider does because of Kuga and it just became a trope, versus how much of it is Shin Kamen Rider calling back to Kuga, or if it's just me completely out of left field making up either or both of these things. And I don't know, I think that'll be fun.
Mm. What about for y'all being shakes? What's your kind of your general take on your first little touch of modern Kamen Rider? I'm actually particularly curious to hear from B's perspective, as someone who has watched at least 01 and part of Revise.
I was going to say, I don't know if it counts because of that as my first.
Well, no, that's if anything, that's actually kind of more all the more reason why I'm interested in kind of your general take, because while you do have experience with more modern Kamen Rider, it's also like more modern Kamen Rider that is very far removed as well. So, you know, if anything, it's I'm curious as to see kind of how does Kugel tickle your brain in comparison to Revice and Ichigo and uh 01.
Um, I may just be reiterating a point here, but it's interesting to see that not just in the space of time, but in the space of methodology, Kuga very much feels like a bridge between these eras,
Mm.
wherein it has kept certain conventions from the old Showa era shows, and sort of formed new ones. So it's kind of got a leg in each camp, as opposed to the sort of complete opposite ends of that spectrum being the Showa era shows, and opposite that, the most modern sort of Reiwa era shows that are, I don't want to say they're just toy shills, but
Mm-hmm.
their tone is entirely different.
No, that's something that Nanagon mentioned. We had a conversation last night, and I said that to you then is it's a little more upfront. Although I do also think that comes a little bit more from what I mentioned, what I've mentioned a few times about kind of later Kamen Rider having more of that anime style lean to it, just because that is that's what's popular. I do think that that sort of kind of more shown kind of sort of shonen battle anime type lean does kind of lend itself more to making the shows feel a little more toyetic. You definitely I do think you get a little bit more of that kind of in your face sort of where we're trying to sell you a thing notion a bit more than you get with some of the older some of the Heisei Phase 1 stuff for sure.
I don't mean that as just a complaint that they're selling toys. I just mean the very nature of how you must present things that would be sold as merchandise
Mm-hmm.
makes the tone of the show inherently different.
Yeah.
as opposed to I suppose the severity of the forms in Kuga, for instance, all of those being, I don't want to say relatively limited, but boy howdy, some common writers get so many forms.
Yeah.
But more than anything, the presentation of these forms is not like, wow, shiny new blah blah blah, announcer voice says a thing,
Mm-hmm.
which just, as I said, the severity of the forms. The tone is completely different,
Mm-hmm.
and I have no issue with the shiny new thing. I think it's very fun. I'm not immune to the energy of that kind of presentation, but it to a certain extent it does make Kuga feel of a bygone era already. Not in a bad way,
Mm-hmm.
but in a way where those conventions have changed.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I am curious. Since you have watched the more Reeeeally series that have more specifically catered to selling merch, are you? Do you also have a drag your heels a bit? It's like I am. I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll buy this, or I'd buy this if this was a toy, and then when it's sold to me, I'm like, no, I'm not buying that. And I'm just curious if that same thing is also how you perceive newer common writers with how they try to sell things.
If I'm being honest, no, but
Fair.
that might just be a personal thing. When I see it, I understand that this will be merch to be made and sold later, but it is not inherently tempting to me.
Well, it makes it less.
Sorry to say.
It makes it less tempting for me.
Well, yeah. In any case,
Mm.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm in B's boat, but from a different perspective. It is not that, like, knowing that this is clearly a toy makes the the show or even the toy itself more or less tempting to me. It is I know in my head that the product I would be looking for from the show, the show is still selling toys to me. It's just not those toys. There are different toys that I am looking for that I want to get my hands on. So I am not giving much in the way of consideration to those generally. Although I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am immune to, I've certainly had my eye on buying like a lock seed or a, some sort of transformation item from some sort of show. Some of them are just kind of fun little gadgets that it'd be fun to line up on a desk. But yeah, I generally it definitely does not. Yeah, it doesn't have me necessarily dragging my feet on trying to buy that stuff, because it's more so just I'm not ever necessarily looking to buy that stuff, especially just because of the difficulties for us specifically of trying to get our hands on that stuff, between trying to find someone who can buy it and getting the money and then shipping it over and all the costs for that, the important and blah blah blah. It's almost not worth the money at the end of the day. Whereas at least, if I can get, like a real nice figure of whoever my favorite common writer is, that's at least slightly more worth it to me, because I have, this nice kind of piece of merchandise that I can display. Whereas, what I spend $150 or something to import a plastic sword that's made for the hands of a 5-year-old.
Fair.
But yeah, are there any particular highlights about the show that anyone wants to speak of? I figured now we'll do just a little bit of a Kuga retrospective as far as, Kuga as a show. Not that I think there's going to be a ton to say. I think we said Kuga good about 175 times throughout the watching and recording of Kuga as a series, but any particular points that anyone wants to talk about, positive, negative, indifferent, and what stood out to y'all? What's the shit that's gonna stick with you?
I think perhaps circling a little bit back to the merch and the difference of a modern common writer notion thing. that whole conversation. Um, it is kind of what sticks out to me. If Kuga didn't have different colors, I would genuinely think they were actually trying to make a unique piece of art. I it's not as egregious, like B said. I do agree with B's notion. It's not as egregious as other things, because even I know that there's Kugas with or not Kugas, with Kamen Riders with literal hundreds of forms, and that's a piece of merch for each one, and I can definitely respect the sort of relative restraint, I guess. In retrospect, it's such a weird thing to sort of place myself in the mentality of the time, because was this the first Kamen Rider to have form changes? I don't know if I ever asked that.
I don't think you ever did, but I think it is. I'm trying to think of the only thing that comes to mind just off of the top of my head of what I know about Showa stuff is Rider Man had he had an arm. He had a weird big hook hand, and you could swap out the hook for other stuff.
Okay.
But other than that, as far as toyetic stuff like that, yeah, Rider Man is the only thing that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, even not toyetic. I just don't know if we've ever had explicit form changes.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this was a first for Kuga.
So it's interesting to see that foundation laid, and it is hard to separate a cynical notion of being were those truly necessary to the story you wanted to tell, or did you just want to A, shake it up, and B, maybe give a little more something to sell? But it truly is just so reserved in comparison. They really let the floodgates open after that. So it's hard to decry it too much, because it's I guess they came up with its function. It seemed less and less relevant as well. I you know what? I can't even say that. There was some great uses of mid fight adaptations per each one, and they didn't just sort of become a niche each time. He would save for Green didn't really get a lot of play. But
that's fair.
It's what it's. But I don't know. I guess I can't say they didn't justify their existences and build up to the final supposed internal conflict of, hey, you got one more form, but it's evil.
Yeah.
So I guess in this, it just looking at it as a singular piece of art, it is, I want to give it full credence, and that's and that's my main takeaway is I think this is them coming after a big gap of not really just doing regular Kamen Rider content, and cultural shifts happening in the country and all that stuff. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's yeah, we're making art. We're making goofy, marketable art, but I think people were genuinely trying to make something that people could enjoy.
Yeah.
Which I truly wonder how much I could say that as time would go on. I like Nana said, just the cynicism might ramp up the more and more you just sort of acknowledge modern culture, modern capitalist culture, and how it affects art, especially art aimed at younger audiences. And I say this as a Pokemon enjoyer.
That's incredibly fair. I do hope that when we get to some of that later stuff, y'all will still enjoy it, but it's definitely, I definitely see where you're coming from as far as, just the whole, how egregious some of the marketing stuff is. To your point about them justifying the existence of all of the Kuga forms and all of them getting at least some amount of play. I mean, I know I've seen forms on writers that get used maybe 2 or 3 times and then literally never show up again in the show. So it's definitely one of those things where you can certainly see stuff that was sometimes kind of just made for the sole purpose of selling a toy.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's not the best thing. I think at the end of the day it kind of comes into how it impacts the story, at least for me. Because a lot of them aren't too egregious in story impact to the point where when they stop using it as a device in the show, I'm not gonna like sit there and still be angry that it happened in the first place, because it's easier for me to, the show is moving on at a good enough pace that I can forget about it too and just kind of keep going with where the plot is taking me.
Mm-hmm. So to go back now to the actual thing of what is your take? What is your notable things about Kamen Rider Kuga? I'd say, despite all that discussion we could have about, selling shit, and all that, and forums and all that, I think the starkest thing, especially maybe for all of us, was just how committed this show truly was to its own characters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that is very much like, yeah, not to be too getting smacks a boss baby on this, but in the sense of not to get to praising a show for doing the thing a story should do, which is give a shit. But like it does a really solid job, and it's hard to tell how much of that is just surprise at a toku, especially coming off of the original toku. How much of it just a complete culture shock it is to see a show in this series now be like, all of these characters have a thing, and they're recurring in their each other's lives, and they all have their own little quirks and consistencies, and they all contribute to the story indirectly or directly with certain roles. It's not just a punch man, punch bug, punches a bug. Everybody's working together and doing things, and also going through their own arcs and interpersonal things. It's all really good. I truly wonder if I'm to look out for anything in future writers or past, is if it ever gets that level. That's the level I'd be looking for. Suits be damned.
You definitely make a fair point, because for Kuga especially, one, it is not doing this with a small supporting cast.
No.
Like, if their supporting cast was like 2 or 3 characters, I could see. But I mean, we've got a decently sized supporting cast that we do all of this with. And there are, while other Kamen writers are still going to make a point to check in on its, their side characters and develop them and everything, I don't know if the other Kamen Rider shows, if any of them are necessarily going to have a group of side characters that tick every single one of those boxes. Where they are, they're both active participants in the, in everything that's in the situation, and they're being developed, and they've got, consistent character, and. There are definitely going to be, like, multiple of those boxes that are checked, but maybe not every single one, and certainly not for every single member of the cast. So it is definitely a novel thing that Kuga has going for it, for sure. And it is something I think that should be praised about Kuga. It's honestly probably one of Kuga's biggest strengths, and probably the way it kind of gets its point across, sort of tells its story that it wants to tell the most, because I think at the end of the day, Kuga is supposed to be a story about humanity, sort of, and more so than just with what is happening to humans, and kind of the weird lack of humanity that the Grungi have. We drive that home more so with the humanity that is within our side cast. At least that is my thought on the situation.
Yeah, I definitely think that if, like, all shows, I would like them to have characters, this strong. But if you're gonna have a show that is strong, it's gotta be the one that, has core themes of like, oh, keep smiling, keep doing your best, and keep trying to make sure that you can get through the day and you can help others get through the day. So I think it really does help with those themes that it's laid out.
Mm. B Nonagon, were there any particular standout points, any specific things that you would want to highlight?
We've talked about the characters, and I think on a much less conversational level, and just this is incredibly superficial. But God, I just did not get over the fact that, like, of the cameras they used, I loved their visual glitches and their, like, interpolations, errors, and it's just comfy. I just like that.
Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with enjoying that.
Like, that's not really a anything. That's not anything of substance. It's just, that's nice. I like it.
No, I'm glad that you were able to get that enjoyment from the cameras. I do, honestly, I am kind of inclined to agree. There is something about, especially because you and I were both of younger ages, at the during this time frame, 2001. So I think there's a lot of inherent nostalgia for shows that look like this. Because there is a little bit of a warm fuzzy that I get when I look at an old show and it looks in this very specific, distinct way that, like, I can remember what it was like the last time I saw this, where I was and how much younger I was and how different everything was.
I can't even
it's
remember
nice.
that. It's just it hits a part of my brain and it creates warm fuzzies, and I appreciate that. Thank you for existing cameras, I guess, is what I'm saying. But
it give that serotonin.
Wow, two nerds talk about how nostalgia exists.
Damn.
Y'all hear about nostalgia? Remember the 90s?
Oh my
No.
God. No.
Not really, no. That's
yeah, settle down, kids.
Yeah.
How about you, B?
Yeah, any particular standouts, any things that you would want to talk about?
I still think I'd just be reiterating points.
That's
about
fair.
The appeal of this show being the character. Kuga good.
Kuga good.
I mean, yeah, I suppose we can cap it off there. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode of Long Time Watcher, First Time Writer. We hope that you have enjoyed yourselves. We hope that you've enjoyed Kuga. Tell us everything that you liked about Kuga in the comments, if you so wish. Check us out on the places where you check us out. All the good stuff. In the meantime, in between time, enjoy yourselves, have a good life, take care of each other, keep smiling, and remember, if you can't believe in God and you can't believe in Buddha, you can always believe in Kamen Rider.
Thank you for listening to another episode of A Long Time Watcher, First Time Writer. If you enjoyed the podcast and want to help us out a little bit, you can head on over to the Patreon. Everything there is entirely free, but it functions as a tip jar if you like what we do and are able to support us. As for us individually, if you want to check out our random rambles and potential other projects, you can check out our social media links down in the description. And finally, there is an actual play OVA tabletop game, which is currently being run by one of our wonderful editors, Wurtzy. Two of the players are our wonderful co-hosts, Action Shakespeare and B-Drops. If you want to know more, you can head on over to @HarborTales on Twitter. Thank you very much for joining us for this podcast episode once again,
and we hope to see you next time.